All right, grown-ups, it's just our time. I love the babies, but to help you, I gotta speak my mind. This segment's here to help you grow with book reviews, lessons, and things you'll be glad to know. If your little one's restless or looking to play, send them to my other playlist. The read-alouds there will brighten their day. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to the Teacher Lady Show. I'm Miss Erica, the Teacher Lady, your fairy godparent when it comes to sharing joyful stories and growing young minds. Now, every single week on the Teacher Lady Show, we have a different topic. And this week's topic is all about emotional regulation. We want our children to better understand their emotions and come up with strategies to be able to manage them, okay? And of course, we're using picture books to be able to do so. So winding back to Monday, we had two interactive read-alouds over on the Teacher Lady Reads playlist. We had the Color Monster as well as the Rabbit Listens. Then on Wednesday, we had two behind the book reviews on those stories where I let you know how do you utilize these books as a resource during Emotional Regulation Week. And now today, Friday, we are wrapping it all up with this episode of the Teacher Lady Speaks, a crash course or professional development and raising children who are more in tune with their own emotions. Now, on this segment of the Teacher Lady Speaks, I will be going over resources, insights, tips and tricks, best practices, and so much more. You can think of this as a Teacher Lady brain dump to try to help you to be able to help them. Now, I know that is a lot of information, but it's time for us to get into it. You ready? Let's grow. Defining the topic for a child. So emotional regulation is your ability to control your responses when it comes to your emotions, okay? We can't always control being angry. Maybe something happened and it happened very quickly and it really made us upset. Or we can't always control sadness. But the way in which we react to that anger or manage that sadness is extremely important. So think about it. You're walking down the street and you have an ice cream cone and then your ice cream hits the floor. And of course, you're upset about it. But then is it okay to turn around and to yell at me? No. Is it okay to then hit the ice cream out of your friend's hand because you're upset and you feel like should nobody have ice cream? No. So the way in which you respond to those emotions is what is called emotional regulation. And it is so necessary for all of us to do. That's how I would go about it. I would give an example that they could relate to. I would give a situation to where they had big feelings or big emotional responses. And then I will talk about what it means to manage that. Okay, so as always on this segment, we compare the state of California to the state of Texas to get a better idea of what your child might be learning in school, okay? Now, for the state of California in regards to emotional regulation, it is embedded across the health education standards and the transformative social and emotional learning competencies, TSEL, which guides schools in teaching emotional literacy, resilience, and coping skills. In grades K through 6, the mental, emotional, and social emotional standards require students to identify a variety of emotions, understand causes and effects of strong feelings, and identify trusted adults and support systems. As they grow, students learn how to express emotions in healthy ways, manage stress, and seek help. For California's TSEL competencies, this is strengthened by promoting self-awareness, self-management during stress or frustration, social awareness for understanding others' emotions, and relationship skills that support healthy communication. Emotional regulation is also reinforced by California's commitment to whole child learning and classrooms that support mental wellness and emotional growth. So California definitely has emotional regulation covered in terms of what they're looking for and how they would like students to respond. Again, How the teacher goes about teaching emotional regulation has a lot to do with whether or not your child actually gets that skill set, because emotional regulation is a skill set. Adults struggle with it. Children struggle with it. It's definitely something that is a built up skill set in order to be able to manage your responses. So the state of Texas. Texas addresses emotional regulation through the health education framework, which emphasizes emotional expression, coping skills, and understanding diverse emotional experiences. In grades K through 2, students learn to identify their feelings and practice expressing emotions constructively, while also recognizing trusted adults who can help them navigate strong emotions. By grade 3, students build awareness around different family and emotional experiences. And in grades 3 to 5, students learn how to manage stress, regulate reactions, and apply age-appropriate coping skills. By middle school, there is further reinforcement around emotional problem solving, relationship skills, and resilience during stressful situations. Altogether, Texas emphasizes understanding, self-control, and healthy communication, which are core components of emotional regulation. Resources. The first resource I'm going to talk about is the Peace Out podcast, okay? The Peace Out podcast offers short mindfulness stories that help kids slow down, breathe, and check in with their feelings. Each episode teaches simple emotional regulation tools through storytelling, guided breathing, and gentle movement. It's a perfect resource for families who want to build calm moments into busy days. So the sauce to emotional regulation is to breathe. You have to calm down. And I really love this podcast. And there are many other children's podcasts, but I like this one because it reminds our children, which means it also reminds us to take a beat and to just breathe. Let me take my own advice. Let's keep growing. The second resource is Calm for Kids, which is guided breathing and meditation. Calm provides kid-friendly meditations, breathing exercises, and sleep stories that help children practice slowing down and grounding their emotions. These tools support emotional regulation, reduce anxiety, and encourage self-soothing. It's a gentle resource families can use daily. The next resource we're going to discuss is Zones for Regulation, Tools, and Visual Support. So this widely used social emotional learning framework teaches kids to identify which zone their body is in: blue, green, yellow, or red. And they choose tools to help regulate their emotions based off of whatever color they chose. It offers visuals, activities, and scripts that make emotional regulation concrete and easy to understand. Families appreciate how it builds a shared language within their home. So literally, you can use this kind of color system when you're out to dinner or at the park to check in with your child and their body and their emotions to figure out where they are. And it gives some tools on what to do once you understand where it is that they are in terms of their kind of emotional regulation. The next resource is called Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence. Ruler Family Tools. Yale's ruler approach helps children to learn to recognize, understand, label, express, and regulate emotions. Their family tools include emotion charts, vocabulary builders, and strategies for talking about feelings in developmentally appropriate ways. It supports emotional literacy and emotional balance. And the last resource I am going to share for now, of course, if you want more, you know to go onto my website, scroll to the bottom, and give me your email so I can add you to my newsletter. But for now, we're going to talk about Smiling Mind, which is a free mindfulness program for children. Smiling Mind provides guided mindfulness practices designed specifically for kids 5 years old and up. The activities help teach children to strengthen their attention and focus, calm their bodies, and manage their overwhelming emotions. Families love that it's free, research-based, and practical for daily emotional support. Best practices at home. The first best practice when it comes to children and trying to help them regulate their emotion is to regulate your own. Children mimic so much of what it is that they see and experience. And so if you are constantly having these huge outbursts, if you are constantly screaming and yelling, and you are just, flick of a light to go from calm, cool, and collected to angry and frustrated and showing all of that, your child is going to pick up on that. And if you want your child to have the ability to emotionally regulate themselves, it definitely starts with you. Build in the practice of breaks throughout your day. This is something that has really helped me with my own emotional regulation. I start my day at 3:30 in the morning, at the latest 4 o'clock, and sometimes it doesn't end until 11 o'clock at night. I have really, really long days, and with those long days comes frustration and crankiness and all of these other things because I'm exhausted. And so I have learned that maybe I can't go to sleep for the entire night or for 8 hours, but to take 10 minutes to just breathe and recenter myself. And that is also something I'm trying to pass down to my child. Just take a minute. You're in a rush with nowhere to go. And in this moment, you are so flustered that it is best that we kind of check in with our emotions and calm down before we continue on throughout our day. So another best practice would be to build in those breaks, okay? The next best practice when it comes to children and them regulating their emotions is to constantly check in with themselves. Children are combating a bunch of things at the same time. Their brain is growing, their body is changing, their environments are often different from what it is that they're used to in terms of a new school or classroom or new friend. People leave, people come. There was a lot for them to kind of figure out. And so to have your child consistently check in with themselves and how they're feeling helps. One practice is, instead of, well, how are you doing? And you already know they're going to say fine or good. What does your heart feel like right now? Or how do your arms feel? Does your body feel heavy or does it feel light? Start to communicate in ways that don't have the same easy way of them saying good if you ask them how they're feeling. Because once they understand, actually, I'm physically weighed down and drained, it will help to figure out the next step in order to be able to manage or get out of that emotion. The next best practice I would say is that they need tools to be able to manage and to get past any adverse or negative emotions. Emotions in and of themselves are not bad. Actually, they're good. They allow us to figure out what it is that's going on in our lives. How do we feel? What it is that we're thinking. They're needed. Where it becomes a problem is that we can have a tendency to act out what it is that we're feeling. So now I'm feeling angry, so everybody around me has to feel angry, and everybody else around me needs to be sad. And I want people to empathize in this way that's actually unfair, and I want them to carry the same emotions as me. We don't do that. So instead, you need to start teaching your child skill sets to combat that. One of those skills are writing. We have an entire week on creative writing. And when your child is able to write and journal, it helps them to be able to express what it is that they're going through and experiencing. Another might be finding their art. What is it that they love to do? And so if they're really into piano or singing or painting, those things help us as human beings regulate our emotions. We cannot be all work. We cannot be all studying all the time. We cannot be all chores and all home tasks and have no outlet, or we will build up and we will burst. Everything that I'm saying is applicable to both children as well as adults. So my next best practice is to find their outlets. What arts are they good at? What creative writing classes can they join? And then the next best practice is, who is in their circle? Who are they able to speak to process those emotions so that they don't build up and ultimately explode? Is there a guidance counselor that they can connect with? Is there a therapist that is on your health insurance plan that they can start speaking to? Is there a friend that they can FaceTime? Having the ability to process what it is that you're experiencing and going through is essential. I once read that our brain can think like 70,000 different thoughts a day, which I just thought was like, oh, I thought that was just me. Apparently, it's a thing. And so if you think about how overwhelmed your child's brain is, in order for them to control their emotions, they have to understand them. And in order for them to understand them, they need a process for being able to kind of sort through them. And that process might be you, it might be journaling, it might be a therapist, it might be all of the above. The next thing when it comes to emotional regulation is that your child needs to understand they are not wrong for how they feel. However, how they react to those feelings are essential. So you get to have a tantrum in your space by yourself, because I should not have to feel the results of your anger and your upset. I understand that you're upset, and you have this space to where it is completely safe and okay for you to yell and get out those emotions, but I should not have to feel them. So often, like I was saying earlier, we want people to be able to connect with our feelings and our emotions in a way that just is not fair and is not healthy. So you want to teach your child that it's never wrong to have whatever feelings and emotions that you have, but what you do with them is crucial. The next best practice is to model sentences that your child can use when they're feeling whatever it is they're feeling. So literally, hey, I see that you're upset right now. Can you complete the sentence for me? I'm frustrated because. What's upsetting you? What's ticking you off? What happened? And make that space for them and see if they can complete that sentence. Now, the next thing I want you to understand is that it's not your job actually to fix all your child's emotions. Like if they're angry because they didn't get to go to the basketball game, because it was canceled, because it's raining, they get to be angry. Like you don't then have to go buy a cupcake to cheer them up. They get to go through whatever process and cycles they need to feel their feelings. I am a strong believer that we have so many issues with addiction and substance abuse because nobody wants to feel their feelings, because nobody got a chance to fully process their feelings. So it's just a build up and a build up and build up. And now I'm using drugs, I'm overeating, I'm on social media way too much, scrolling to pass the day because I don't want to actually face all of these emotions. And so it's not your job to fix your child's emotions. They are not broken. They are very real for them, and they get to go through the process of feeling and understanding them, where you come in as being a safe soundboard as you're able to, because you're also human, and you try to get them to understand that they are not wrong for how they feel. And that how they process it is extremely, extremely important. So all of these things really tie back to best practices and day-to-day practices. Every single day, you should be checking in with your child about their emotions. You should be trying to hear them or getting them an outlet to where they can be heard if you're not able to be that safe place. We cannot give what we don't have the capacity to give. So if you are at your wit's end because every single day your child is having huge emotions and big feelings, and it might not be you. It might be that you have to tap in somebody else. You might have to find that support group or that, child exchange where you get to know another family and then you guys meet up at a park or do a play date or get creative and calling on community to help because it is too much for you to manage. Let's keep growing. When to seek help. There are two kind of people I want to address when it comes to this section. One is the caregiver, the adult. Again, if you are at a point to where you can't keep managing your child's emotions, they are too much and they are too overwhelming for you, you have to get help. And that help is going to look like your local library, because your librarian knows everything. I promise you, they're magical. It's something that happens in the application process. You're going to connect with them. You're going to see what resources are available, what support groups are available, what tools are available. You're going to get locked into the Parent-Teacher Association meetings so that you can talk to other parents and figure out what it is that they're doing to help their children with their emotion. You're going to talk to the schools guidance counselor on behalf of your child, but also on behalf of yourself. Do they know any adult adult support services. If you have a child with really big feelings who is very clear on how they feel all the time, either by showing it or by saying it, and it is overwhelming you, you have to make sure your own mental health is okay. Because if you are not okay, nobody else can be. Okay, it really does start at the top and trickle down. So you check in with you first. You get the help and the support that you need so that you can show up for your child. Now, if your child is consistently having super big reactions and emotions, tantrums and upsets, if they're unable to regulate or calm down in public, also might be beyond your control and your ability to help. So you're going to go get help. Again, you're going to check in with that school guidance counselor if they're available, that local librarian, even if you don't love books, and that local church, even if you don't love the Lord. Why? Because both of those places are nonprofits that have the ability to be able to help. And right now, that is what your family needs. You need community. You need other people that understand you, and you need some support to get out of these ongoing situations. It is very exhausting to come home and every day have to manage tantrums and screaming and yelling and crying and all of these big feelings and emotions. It is exhausting for both that child, believe it or not, as well as for you. So it is time to go into community and to seek help. If need be, go to your doctor. Say, hey, this is what's going on. This is how I'm feeling. This is how my child is feeling. What do we do? Because they might have some resources and some insights as well in terms of getting you direction. Overall, what I always say when it comes to when to seek help is you have to stop suffering in silence. If you are the only one who knows that you're experiencing that issue, how can anybody show up for you? And in some cases, it is that person's job to show up for you or for your child. That school guidance counselor, it is their job to guidance and counsel, okay? That doctor, it is their job to make sure that you are as healthy as you can be. And so you have to get out of yourself and go seek some help. Go get some support. Go get some parenting support. Go get other people who understand what it is you're going through so that you too have an outlet. No outlet is not good because either those feelings go down, they get stuffed down, they get blurred out or what have you, or they come up and you're screaming and you're yelling, and neither case is okay. Common questions. My child is autistic and constantly having meltdowns in public. What do I do? So when it comes to our neurodivergent babies, it is important that we try to have a routine as best as possible and that we try to prevent sensory overload. So the first thing I do whenever I have a child like in my classroom who is having really big emotional responses consistently is I try to document what's triggering it. Right? Because sometimes I'll talk to parents and I'll say everything, nothing, I don't know, da, da, da. And I'll watch that child. And every time they have a response that to me, in my perspective, is out of nowhere, which is never out of nowhere, I document it so that I can figure out a pattern of behavior. What you need to do is figure out your child's pattern of behavior. And then after a few weeks, I'll be able to see, oh, they don't mess with sirens. These sirens go by, it's not for them. They don't like it. Okay, but good to know. Or I'll understand, Erica, you are way too loud. Every time you, good morning, scholars, they start, having a very big response because you stressing them out. You too loud. You got to calm that down some. Okay, bet. Or they don't like when I flash the lights to get the classroom's attention. Okay, bet. So as you document what it is that is causing these responses and these reactions, you might be able to find a pattern and then we can avoid some of those things, okay? But paying attention to your child and taking a step back and not feeling like it's everything all the time and really trying to take notice is going to be helpful. The other thing is, things that neurodivergent children struggle with are not applicable to everybody. So I might be fine washing my hands, and them washing their hands might feel like it's fire. It might be scratching them. It might feel or come across as if they're being scratched. Not that they're actually being scratched or that it's actually burning, but the way in which their brain is responding to the feeling of the water is very hard for. That's very real. That is very real. And so take a level of empathy and have a bit of understanding as to their entire body being different than what you're able to imagine. Right. And then from there, you do as many precautionary measures as possible. If you have to take that child grocery shopping, try to take them first thing in the morning or at a super weird time on a weekend where there aren't as many people in the aisles. Try to get them headphones so that when you do go out in public, they're not constantly triggered by all of the noises and the sounds and the sensory things that are going on around them. The more things that you can put in place to make that child feel safe within their own body or help them to be able to do so, the better. Let's keep growing. Should I tell my child to be quiet if they need to be quiet? Yeah, sometimes it's a safety situation. Sometimes you are aware of things that your child is not aware of. There are times where you go to a sketchy gas station and everything feels weird and uncomfortable, but you need gas in order to get home. And your child is talking and hollering and screaming or going through something, and you tell them, hey, I need you to be quiet. That is completely okay. We have to understand. I think we do this thing where we have no middle ground. And so it's either like, shut up, don't say that, or just allowing your child to talk all the time and kind of be the center of the universe. There is a balance. There is a balance to have. You are the parent and you have to parent and you have to teach your child what is appropriate and what is not appropriate. And if you are in a situation to where this is not an appropriate time for you to be screaming or singing loudly or doing whatever it is that you're doing, you got to tell them that, hey, stop knocking this stuff off this shelf. If it's something that they're able to understand and follow, absolutely. Do not be afraid to parent your child. At the end of the day, we have a responsibility to our children to raise them. And a huge part of that is education. So yes, it is okay to tell your kid to be quiet. You don't have to be rude about it, but it's definitely okay. And I would even encourage it in times to where it's necessary so that they can understand we're in a library. This is not where we scream. Oh, we at the park? Okay, I can get it popping with my voice. Let them know what is okay and what is not okay so that they know and they can better understand. Next question. What if my child avoids their feelings? Baby, who doesn't? There's really nobody that walks around wanting to feel all their feelings all the time. That's why we have such an issue with substance abuse. This is why we have adults who gamble their house away and people who eat to a point of pain and death. This is why we have drug users and people who spend the entire day scrolling on their phone because nobody wants to feel those icky emotions and feelings. But we know and understand that when we don't feel them, they don't go away and they just live there and they brew and they become these huge monsters that ultimately we don't know what to do with or how to manage or handle them. And so they have to be addressed. But they don't have to want to address them. That's not fair. That's like being like, hey, you got to clean your room, but you also got to like it. Like, no, like I need you to clean the room. You don't have to love cleaning your room, but I do need you to do it. And that is the same when it comes to feeling your feelings. At the end of the day, you don't have to want to feel your feelings. You just need to understand the importance of doing so because it is best for you and it's best for your child. Whew. Wow. That was an excellent episode. I really hope that you learned something from it. I definitely had my own reminders in terms of emotional regulation and checking in with my body. Another best practice that I'm thinking of right now is just the importance of eating well and sleeping when needed and really listening to our bodies. So many times our emotions are in response to our bodies being deprived of something. So maybe we are exhausted Maybe we're lonely. Maybe we're hungry, so on and so forth. And so this was a great reminder for me as well. I thank you for learning with me, for growing with me, for being part of this book loving community. If you did not know, I am the author and illustrator of 9 beautifully illustrated books. Okay. They are diverse books. They are meant to share the stories that are often untold. And those books encourage something called the Empathy Library, which is a pay it forward donation program. So you give what you can. That money goes to purchasing books to children who are in need of books, and then it gets given to them by way of your generosity. So check out the Empathy Library, check out my books, subscribe to the newsletter. Thank you for learning with me, for growing with me, and for being part of this community. Until next time, remember to enjoy the moment or go be a joy in the moment. Bye.